Queen!
I'm still absolutely buzzing from this unreal chess final. It was played in London. Magnus Mustaschson playing with the black pieces in this game, going in hard on the chewing gum and facing the king of fashion, Alireza Firouzja, the trickiest guy in chess. What a clash it was. Every single stage of this game was just unreal. The whole match was. This is actually the bullet portion, a minute each, plus a second back per move. That's known as excrement. Magnus plays the BOGO Indian defense, and watch what he goes for here. I mean, this is some craziness. Alireza blocks with the knight. Now we see some b6 business, kind of Queen's Indian style thing. Bishop chased, and Magnus gives up the bishop bear. Normally you want to hold on to them, right? The grandmothers love them. Bishop b7 looking to dominate the e4 square, and so Alireza fights back. But hello, sir, you just lifted the king's kilt. Watch this. Knight h5. Now, normally they say a knight on the edge is a massive loser with no life prospects and really needs to reassess things. But there's a tricky point. The queen's going to try and check. If you block with the pawn, the knight can take. The queen's there and it would win the rook and all kinds of craziness. So that's why we see pawn to g3. It does create more weaknesses around the king though, despite having the upside down bathtub, one of the most overpowered pawn structures in chess. And watch this, just for good measure. Pawn f5 punched on the board, so it's turned into a kind of weird Dutch defense thing. I mean, there's basically no games in the database here, maybe one. It's pure Magnus madness. If you want to learn this kind of wackiness, obviously go to Lotus Chess in the description. Obviously check it out. You know how much I love it. I've recently seen my rating start skyrocketing. It really does work. Cements those moves. It's free to get started. Check it out. Now we see bishop g2, and of course white wants that big center, so Magnus castles. Now if you start doing it too soon, takes, and you're opening up the rook file here. The king can't castle, not ideal. So Alireza tucks in. This knight develops such provocative chess. I mean, don't try this at home. If you now push, playable, well, the knight can drop to e7, could even look at e5. Okay, you're playing with fire, right? When all these pawns could start kicking you. But Alireza doesn't want it. He drops back the knight to b1. Is he resetting the board for the next game in a show of despair? I don't think so. The match is so tight at this point. I should have said it could go either way. This is such a huge game. They really could hardly be split. Magnus a smidge ahead, but so little in it. Now we see e5, and typically in the Dutch defense, if you can get this move in, you're quite happy. Best response here is closing the center. You kick back the knight, but more importantly, you really blunt this bishop. It's going to struggle for work anytime soon. But in the game, pawn takes on e5. And it's kind of weak sauce, as Magnus might say, if he was streaming a title Tuesday, as he does. Because now look at the position. The knight springs to life. You could have also taken with the pawn, by the way. But we'll stick with what Magnus did. And the bishop, what an absolute moonraker, unreal scenes. b3 on the board to cover the pawn, which was attacked. And Magnus, of course, just throws that rook pawn down the board. What a boss move. This is modern chess. Knight d5 is quite strong, apparently. But Alireza lifts the queen. Now, it looks great. I mean, I love a centralized queen, right? Spider sprawling in every direction. Hopefully I haven't messed up the camera there. Need to stop waving my hands around like some kind of crazy muppet. The reason this isn't so hot is Magnus can now play queen f6, and it does create a little tactic. There's this threat of takes, check, and then winning a loose queen. So Alireza takes this time out, but somehow it's kind of hard to figure it. The pieces aren't quite getting on the right squares. Pawn structure's a bit drafty, bishop's a bit dead. Magnus is a bit better here. He brings the rook to the centre. This bishop now fianchettos, so natural, but it leaves control here. Magnus is getting ready to attack, but he doesn't do it yet. If you do it too soon, let's show it. G4, whoops, the knight's got nowhere to go. I mean, unbelievably, this is apparently still advantage black. No clue. I'm questioning everything I know now about life, about chess, but whatever. Let's come back to the game. Magnus plays queen h6, preparing f4, giving the knight a square, aggressive intentions. Bishop c1 is actually one of the strongest moves, but Alireza plays queen d2. Now that's brave against the end game goat, a guy who loves to grind like a grandma deep into the night with David Howell. You don't want the queens off the board, but Magnus doesn't do it. He keeps them on. He pushes the pawn, and it is the best move. G4 is played to keep the lines closed, but after the knight drops back, h3. Look at this poor guy on g2, absolutely crying, looking at Alireza like, what did I do to you? Did I upset you? I'm sorry. It's just completely dead as a dodo. Poor guy. Knight g6 from Magnus opens the eyes of the rook. This is classy. We get bishop c1 from Alireza. Keep your eye on that bishop, by the way. It's just unreal how he brings these bishops back to life, like some absolute Mary Shelley, Frankenstein wizardry. Watch this, pure magician. Magnus does a little remaneuver here, very classy. And after knight b5, we suddenly realise that white has play. Look at this, look at this. Garry Kasparov is licking his lips. Now we see Magnus go for the double stack. Knight d4 covers the pawn, also looks to hop. So queen g5 anticipates that fork that was coming. Looks nice and aggressive also, of course. Now we see rook a2, classy move, little mini lift, just a tiny little bicep flex. Covers the pawn a bit more, the backwards pawn. Now bishop c8, and it covers the f5 square, yes. But watch this. Watch how Alireza just peels open things, forces access. Queen e1's played. h5 now from Magnus. Such a natural move. Taking the tin opener there to this solid structure. And after queen f2, we just start to get the hint. Bishop d7. The e3 might come in the right circumstances. a4 is hinted, breaking up the structure here. So Alireza shuts it down. Best way to play now with black is with this pawn c5. I don't know why I did a dramatic pause. There's nothing dramatic about the fact that you could see the move coming. Sorry about that. Here's the point. You can chop the knight. Let's say a recaptures and d5. Nicely supported. The queen is a monster. You can't distract her. This square's nice and controlled. And black's really doing well here. The bishops dominate, the knights dominate the bishops, better rooks, better everything. But we didn't see c5 followed by d5 after bishop chops knight. We saw d5 immediately. This is a mistake because Alireza can take. Knight recaptures and watch this. It shouldn't be possible. Knight f5. I mean, look at Garry. He's absolutely loving it. You wouldn't know it, but he is. And here's the tactical point. If you take, this is what the bishop should be doing on this diagonal. Covering f5. You don't recapture. You slip it in. The Zwischenzug. You whisper it just to give your opponent goosebumps. And you're winning a piece. Because the bishop can't move away. It's pinned to the queen. And of course, next turn, you can take with the pawn or the rook. Black can't fight against this. You haven't even got this counterplay because of this lovely piece. So, because Magnus can't take, he has to find another move. There is a threat to take here with check. Rook e5 is strongest, but Magnus plays knight c3. Forking. Takes with check. Rook recaptures. He's an exchange down, but instantly winning it back. Takes. Reminder, This is bullet chess, a minute each, second back per move. I mean, how many of us would be proud of this in a classical game, right? Unreal levels of chess accuracy. Now we see this bishop head to e6, hit a pawn, it's defended, bishop tucks back to reopen the eyes of the rook, and probably the nicest move here is e3, really forcing things open over here, eventually. But e4 was played. It offers Magnus en passant. Now we know he loves a good bellow, sometimes he even puts on a French accent when he takes en passant. But here he decides, look, I'm in London, it's not Paris, let's not take, let's not open the board for the bishops, let's hop with the knight. And this is why maybe e3 was a bit better. Rook is hit, check, king h7, and a great counter-attacking move. h4, absolutely love it. And suddenly, look at the pawn armada. Now the queen, she heads to g6 and she ditches this pawn. What if you go queen f6, well g5, and you can't stay with it anyway. So this was played. The pawn was captured by the bishop and it allows Magnus counterplay here. So I do want to ask a quick question. Why not g5? Well, then knight c6 hits the rook. It drops back, covers the pawn. But then you can hit it again. And you just get all this tickle stuff. And if you try and keep the game going, queen d6 takes the file because you left it with the rook and defends the pawn. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. So g5 doesn't actually keep everything closed and cleanly win the pawn. So instead takes immediately. Magnus takes and the game's going nuts. Takes was played. Rook recaptures. f4 now. Ignoring this, sliding by. Boy, do they look ominous. And suddenly the bishops come to life. Alireza's done it. This is wizardry. The rook goes away. e5 now. Now, why is he doing that and not f5? Well, it's a much more harmonious pawn structure with this bishop. Think this. Once queen e3 comes. Think this. Good night, God bless. So we see this from Magnus counter-fighting. He could have checked down here. We get this on the board. Bishop e6 in response. And bishop e4. Magnus did spot the threat. They're both so good. Just not making these tactical errors. Seeing the skewer. Blocking with the bishop. And drops back was played. Guess what? You could take. Queen takes. And play this endgame. Force the queens off the board. Something like this. And white's actually winning a pawn. One to the good. Much better endgame. Should be winning. Think this and this. So let's drop back. This was good. Followed by queen d3. But it's blitz chess. Bishop drops back. Pawn g2 from Magnus. Rook f8's really strong. Because it threatens takes of this bishop. Followed by this nastiness. Missed. Alireza drops back. We see queen g3. And it's a killer, paralysing move. Because you can't take the pawn as you'd like to do. Or you hang your queen. This is a threat. Rook c2 could be coming. Suddenly Alireza is in a world of pain. I didn't explore pawn e6 for the counterplay. Let's do it. Rook c2. Let's just go for it and see what happens. Queen h3 to get mated. I guess this is the problem, right? The king's going to get killed. So we saw queen f2, but this is a blunder, as you can see. It does cover this pawn here. It breaks the pin, but it leaves the f4 pawn, and that's a biggie. Now Alireza captures here. Lovely jubbly. Magnus could take here, but he instead goes for this. King takes. Rook takes on e5, so he does indeed pick that one up. And after Alireza goes after the backward c pawn, Magnus could play this, but he even spots this exceptional move. Rook c5. I mean, wow. With great mustache comes great responsibility. He understands that this endgame is actually winning for black. Can he convert it though? That is the massive question. Hikaru had this winning endgame, and yet he messed it up. Watch this. Incredible scenes. Bishop bounces round. Now king g4. Would you believe from here that Alireza is about to make a queen? The race is on. Magnus goes for it. Pawn drops. Queen on the way. But it is for both players. Watch this. 2 pawns for Magnus. Alireza blunders his queen. They're scrambling. It's ridiculous. It's low on time. And on move 70, Magnus mops up. Even if the queen wasn't blundered, it should have been a one-end game. But of course, there is a risk of perpetual check. And although this is only one of many, the overall picture was Magnus Carlsen took home the Speed Chess Championship. He was always a little bit ahead and he edged it out at the end by 3-4 games, something like that. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bit late here, losing the voice. Have a look at the video on screen if you want to see some more epic chess. Don't forget to check out Lotus Chess, brush up your openings, dominate your opponent, and I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.